Hi, my name is Lyle Sopel, and you're here visiting with me in my studio, and I'm a gem and jade sculptor. So you're looking at a piece that's been in my studio now for quite a few months, and I just actually put it together this morning, and the final parts of it came together, and you know, there's always little bits and pieces that need to be done, but this is pretty close to final. It's a Japanese crane. It was a commissioned piece. It's made up of a variety of materials. I think there's something like 20 separate sculpted pieces that are carved and fitted together to make up this thing. The main body of this piece is Italian marble, and the black colors are black jade. I've used jasper for the top of the head, and tiger eye for part of the base mounting, which I'm calling bonsai tree for the theme. And I've got an alligator quartz base, which I'm really happy with because I love the way it got suspended on the quartz crystal legs here, which I think really add a nice feature to the asymmetric view of what that is. The, kind of floats it all and makes it a very active piece. So, happy with it. It's really challenging to put all these pieces together and then fit them in one way. So, you know, this is a piece that definitely takes a lot of experience, I would say, trial and error. So, always it's a matter of experimentation, and this is something new for me, but I've had ideas that were similar to this, and so it's always an experiment. And I had an interesting question from August Voss this morning, and he said, you know, how do I do what I do? How do I know what I'm doing here? and I would say that a lot of what I do is an experiment. I've got a lot of basic knowledge about how to manage stones and a basic knowledge of gemstones, and then I really honestly love the idea of engineering. So that's sort of my personal kind of concept behind the art that I do. The engineering of the pieces is really intriguing to me. So what I really kind of do is create my own problem and then I solve it. And that's what I love to do. Every piece has got its own little thing that requires some focus and thought, and then it's how does it all come together. So that's why I think it makes my work interesting and keeps me definitely interested in all the subjects that I work with. So for putting pieces together, I just want to show you, because we've got a little demonstration here on the next piece in the studio is going to be a puffin. And the puffin is made up of a couple of different kinds of materials here, where the breast is going to be a white color and the head and so on are different colors. So I just want to show you that this is a piece of jade, whoops, a piece of jade that's been colored with a crayon. And this is the piece of marble that's going to be the breast. So we get it kind of close to in the jade. So we carve one side first to the shape we want, and then we mark it with a wax crayon, and then carve that one quite close. And then when we get pretty close to the shape, in order to ensure that we get like a really accurate fit and that seam line is really tight, we rub the two together, and all the high spots will be left with a mark, like a yellow mark. And so we just go back to those yellow marks, grind those smooth, and then do the fit test again. Look for the yellow marks and grind those smooth. And then just keep that process going on until there's no gap between the two pieces. And then what I use is a cyanoacrylate glue, which is kind of like a crazy glue, and I mix a blackening, like I use a graphite, ground graphite in the glue, which makes it black, and so the black seam also helps hide the piece. So another thing I'm working on here that I can show you is the eagle piece that is the combination on this base. So got the feather pattern in there, and it's all jade, and from this point I'm going to texture those feathers. You can see the head is in place. And I always leave a little bit on the delicate part, so there's no like corner that could chip off. So I always leave that until the very, very last minute before that kind of thing is taken away. And same with the feet. I've opened that up, the claw portions, and keep them connected until the very last bit of work is done on the piece, and then I'll just grind that section out so it is clean at the last minute. Because all the handling that has to go on with the piece can really jeopardize the piece. It can chip and so on. So that's how that's going to go. So this one is still quite a bit further along. I like to kind of get the proportion of one down before I do the other. And you can see that I'm just going to loose drawing on there so you get the idea. So they're going to be connected together and then mounted on a base like this. So there's the two of them together on the base. Okay, so one of the questions I wanted to address today was, first of all, the benefits of rejection. And then after that, I'm going to talk about the strategy that we had in place with our bear promotional strategy that we are instigating here in the studio. I'm going to give you more details on that. And then August asked about the polishing process, how I do that, and wanted to take a look at some of the tools that I use for polishing. So I will get to that as well. So first of all, the benefits of rejection. Well, you know, rejection, no matter how you look at it, is painful. There's no question. Rejection is really tough. But the truth is, it's really part of the art business. I think rejection is as much a part of the art business as it is as creativity is. So it's sort of one end of the scale. The creativity is the joy, and the rejection from a prospective client might be the worst of it. So you got two ends of the scale. So it's how to live with that. That's the question. And I want to tell you a little story about a rejection that I experienced some time ago. I had this idea that I should have a watch. Now this is kind of like funny because that was a while ago. I don't even wear a watch anymore. But at some point, I decided that a watch was the thing I really needed in my life, a really high-end, expensive watch. And I found one, but I just didn't have the money for this thing. So I decided, I'll just wait until something special happens and maybe have enough money in my account to do it. And so one day, like, I've experienced all kinds of different ways of selling my art. So at one point, I had a retail gallery in downtown Vancouver that just carried my own work, and we had some paintings, some other artists as well. So I had a variety of pieces in this gallery, maybe 20 different sculptures of my art in the gallery. And we had a manager that was working in there. And I'm at the studio, and so she calls one day and she says, "You'll never guess what happened. The clients come through and wanted to buy every single piece in the studio." And I'm like, 20 pieces, oh my God, all at once at retail value. So I thought, oh my goodness. And so where is she? I said, well, she said, she's gone home, or she's gone out to get the credit card and get her husband, and she'll be back in to pay for all of them. And all she wanted me to do was put them together in an invoice and give her the grand total. So I went, yahoo, I'm gonna go buy my watch. So I went out back to the jeweler where the watch was, and gee, that's fantastic. That watch is just exactly what I wanted. And I was gonna buy it, and then I thought, you know, I just better check to make sure that that sale's gone through before I spend the money. And so I called the gallery and I said, what's happening? You know, how's the sale going? And it turns out, of course, this person doesn't come back. It turns out that this is part of her strategy, that she's gone to other retailers and says, I'm going to buy everything, and then she gets something free as an example to go home with, and she doesn't pay for anything. So anyway, there's all kinds of people in the world. The sale didn't happen, and a good thing that I didn't commit to the watch. So I felt totally rejected, and I lost the opportunity to get the thing I wanted, but you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. So the moral of the story is, don't spend the money till it's in the bank. So I live by that too. No matter how confident you are with the sale, don't count on it till it's in the bank, because things change all the time. So one of the things that I've got over time, like I've been doing this for so long, and I know this kind of stuff happens all the time, is it just doesn't faze me anymore. Like I've kind of hardened to the idea that rejection can happen. It's only real when it's real, sort of thing. So for me now, it's just like I don't even give it a second's thought. But I know if you're starting out and this is something you really love and someone says they don't like it, it can be really devastating. So I think a really great way to look at the overall picture of what you're doing when you make a presentation is to, first of all, have a plan, have a goal of what you want for your work, your studio. What is it that you want to accomplish? So when you're pretty set on your direction and what you want to get out of your studio, if one person comes by and says, no, I don't like it, it doesn't matter, because there's going to be another person and your plan is still going forward. So that's really important. Keep the goal, and if one person doesn't like it or two people don't like it, doesn't matter. Just go forward with your plan, with your thought, with your idea, and stay positive. Like I have 1 month goals, I have 1 year goals, I have a 5-year goal, and I also have a 10-year goal. So all of these are pretty set, but they can all be adjusted as I go through my day or through my year or through my 5-year term. But the idea is something that I project into the future that really works for me. So that's one of my suggestions. And another thing is to understand that this is going to happen. This is part of life. This is part of the art world. And when you make a presentation, plan to, first of all, have a successful sale. Secondly, plan to have a rejection. So if someone's you don't know until you make the presentation how it's going to turn out. So be prepared so you're not shocked and dismayed that someone has said no to you. So if someone says no, what's the plan? What are you going to do? How are you going to turn it into a positive outlook? Like for instance, if you're trying to get to a place where, say, you want to go to a gallery and the gallery doesn't like what you presented. So, let's make an appointment for another visit, and I'm going to bring a different sculpture or a different painting or a different concept next time, and be prepared for that. Or you can have a variety of different ideas that you can show. So if they didn't like that, you can have that. So you think in advance of the idea. So if it's a retail client, for instance, and you're trying to close on a sale and they don't like what you're presenting, they don't like anything you've got, you can put them on your list and say, listen, I always do a variety of different pieces. I'll put you on my mail list, and I'm going to mail you the next time I have something really, really interesting that you're going to love it. So there's a way to stay engaged and go forward. Now, one more thing is, keeping a positive vision in your mind for a good conclusion on the piece. It's so important to have this bigger idea about what you're doing, and envision everything going the way you want it. And you start the project that way, and when you make the presentation, you have that idea strongly in your mind that this is going to be successful and it will work. There's a lot of abundance in the world, so you don't have to give anything up. So 3 great suggestions to overcome rejection. Now, for the bear strategy the marketing strategy for the series of bears we're doing, it was started a little while ago, and I'm working it with a lot of the other projects that I have in the studio. So I have these commissioned pieces, and I have a couple of shows that I'm preparing for. And so along with all that, I work the bear strategy into my schedule. So it's going to take a little while, but it's important to understand that the marketing strategy does take some time. It's going to take time for the clients to be familiar with this idea that you're presenting, and this idea is something that you want them to engage with over time. If you try to do it over like a weekend or over just a couple of days, it's not enough time for the mental idea to really flow with the client. So first of all, you want to have an idea that's really sound for you, something that you're really comfortable with. And for us, it was the bear idea. So we put together an idea on how to produce them. So we're going to produce like 8 different bear pieces. And then you need a list. So I've talked about these things in the past. So you want to share this idea with your list, your clients, your people that love to see what you're doing. So the list is important there, and I talked about how to build that in the past. So the next thing, the next step is demonstrating what you can do with this idea. So you will allow people to come into your studio. So if you do this kind of thing, or live Facebook, or you just do snapshots of the inside of your studio, or some beginnings on the projects that you're working on, just to engage the client. So that's what you want to do next, is to engage the client with the process of what it is that you're making. So they're interested and excited about what's going to happen. So that's three steps towards the strategy. And these can all be infinitely more complex, but that's the general idea. The idea, share with your list, and then demonstrate. Now the following, there's another follow through. You're going to have this group of people, after they're engaged, they're going to be identified as an exclusive group. So I'll talk about that next week. And then you're going to do some calls, and then you're going to go visit the bank after it's all done. So that will all come up next week, and we'll get into it a little bit more in detail. Okay, so I'm going to do a little polishing demonstration for August, and I'm sure a few other people. So I'll go in the other room and just follow along, and I'll show you what I'm working on. So this is a piece that I'm going to show. We finished this one last week, and it has a texture which was put on with a 100 grit diamond tool, and that just was the carving part of that, and then we sandblasted it and then sanded over it again. So from that point we polished into the interior parts, and I use these kinds of tools on my handheld tool, and I make these up. I just get some mandrels with screws or whatever, or glue the cone shape onto the mandrel, this is hard felt. So I use those to go into the interiors and so on. But for the general outside work of the polish, I use a bigger tool, which is this over here. This is a hard felt, and it's on a big shaft, and it screws right in there. I'll show you how it works. It just screws right in. So that just stays on the shaft. This turns at about 1,000 RPM, so it's not very fast. And if I want to change it, I have this that I use for different kinds. This is a marble wheel, so that just screws on there. I've got different ends that can go on there as well for different sizes of things, and different felts, hard felts to screw on for getting into the complex challenged areas. So I use a diamond paste, which is mixed up like this. It's from a powder to a paste, and I just take that and I apply it to the top of this hard felt. And over time, this hard felt becomes lubricated with this diamond paste, and it really does polish everything, but that's basically how I put it on there. And let me turn it on. So this Jade surface has only been sanded to 500 grit silicon carbide. That's all I need. From 500 grit silicon carbide, I can go to this diamond polish and get a shine. This combination will polish any kind of stone, anything from quartz to anything harder than, say, a marble. It'll even polish marble, but this combination and this process works for everything. That's all I use, and hope you enjoyed it. If you have any other questions about the process or any of the marketing strategy ideas, then just send me a message and I'm happy to help. So thanks for being with me today. Bye now.